was born and raised here in Napa, California, and I grew up pretty normal life. My dad and mom both had jobs growing up, had babysitter like most people. About 4th or 5th grade, my parents started having problems, and they both were alcoholics. My parents divorced in 5th grade. And I bounced kind of back and forth between first my mom and then living with my dad. I ended up in foster care freshman year of high school, and was in 3 different placements. The first 2 were with in kinship care is what they call it, where you live with family members. So I lived with an aunt and an uncle the first time from my mom's side, and then my second placement was with an aunt and an uncle from my dad's side. And then my 3rd placement was with an actual foster family, people that I didn't know at all. I have 2 younger sisters, Katie and Emma, and they were both placed in care with me. The first time, all 3 of us lived together with my aunt and uncle, and the second time I was actually the only one who was removed from the home because they thought that I was the one who was the problem. And the third and final time, we're all together again. So for me, it was really hard to be separated from them, in the second placement, because they were, and they still are everything to me, I'm big brother, I always tried to look out for them and be there for them and help to raise them in a lot of different ways. I went to Napa High. I graduated in 2005, and 3 different homes during high school, which is actually a relatively low number for typical, foster youth. I've heard stories of youth being in 30 different homes. The hard part for me was it wasn't that we went from one home to the next, we started with one home, we went reunited with my dad, then we went back to another home, reunited with my dad, and then finally another home, and then I aged out at 18. So that was hard for me, a lot of the back and forth, not necessarily just being in a stranger's home, but constantly switching back and forth, not knowing where I was going to be staying or, what was going to be stable or how long I was going to be there for. After the second time, you kind of start asking those kind of questions. Right now, I'm still at San Francisco State. I'm a sociology major, and I'll be graduating next year, which is exciting. So I began my involvement with Voices when I was 17, and my social worker, who is here in Napa still, Shauna Martha, she approached me, and she basically said, "Hey, there's this project that's beginning, and I think you would be a great fit for it." And I was like, I don't know, it doesn't really sound interesting. And she's like, "Come on, just do it for me, you owe me." She had done a lot for me. And so she pulled that card and she said, "You owe me, go show up. And it's at Round Table Pizza, just go grab some food." I was like, okay, whatever you say. And so I went down there. I made sure that my sister Katie was suggested to go with me. So I dragged her along. We didn't really know what we were getting into. We had no idea what the project was about. We just knew that it was foster youth helping other foster youth. At that first meeting at Round Table Pizza, we sat down and we talked about what they were thinking, thinking about doing a center for youth by youth. And that was basically how I got involved. So my initial role with Voices was as a founding member. So they recruited 10 former foster youth to all become the founders of the program, which basically meant we developed an implemented program, because their thinking was, who better to serve the youth than the youth themselves? And so our job was really to use what we had learned being in the system about what worked for us and what didn't work, and to apply that to a center where other youth could feel welcome. And so what we do is we offer connection to different resources like housing, education, employment, wellness, legal services, anything that you would need support with as you're turning 18 and becoming a young adult and being expected to be out and on your own. Most youth who grew up at home, they have their parents to rely on for those kind of things. We just wrapped up a contract in Santa Clara County where we helped to start the 3rd center. So we have one center in Napa that was Voices Napa that we first started. We have a center in Santa Rosa, which is called Voices Sonoma. And we just contracted with the County of Santa Clara to provide technical assistance to them, to basically coach them on how to do what we do. So in Santa Clara now, there is a 3rd center that's called The Hub, which I helped to gather 10 founding members, all youth with experience in foster care, and we pulled them together to create their center, and they named it The Hub. When I was 17, I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I didn't really have a direction or a path, or I had no real anybody to tell me what was right or wrong in a lot of ways. And so for me, when I got connected to Voices, it was a big deal for me because I finally found something that I was good at, and I was helping other people at the same time. And so once I started getting more and more connected to the work and the other youth that I was meeting and my peers really, I developed a deeper understanding for the need and the demands of all the youth that are out there in the system. And I felt like it was my job to use my experience and my expertise that I had been developing to continue to give back, and not only give back in the resources kind of way, but also to continue to give other youth the opportunity to step into leadership just the same way that I was given. And so for me, my passion really comes around giving youth the opportunity to lead and holding the bar high and challenging them to be excellent.